So what's the actual difference between these two hybrid cameras, the Sony A6700 and the Sony A7C II? I mean, they're both really small and exceptional, right? Well, in this video right here, we're gonna take a close look at them and compare them side by side against each other for both photos and videos. On top of that, I'll be sharing with you all of the things that I like about each camera, but I'll also share with you the things that I quite frankly don't like. So my friend, by the end of this video, you'll know exactly the differences and which of these is the perfect fit for you and why. Alright, so to kick this video off, there are of course some obvious differences, like, you know, the sensor size. This one has a 33 megapixel full frame sensor, while this one has a 26 megapixel APS-C sensor. Now there are of course some other things that differentiate them, but they also have quite a lot in common. So let's start by taking a look at the similarities, and then we go into the differences, and then we go into the things that I wish I were a little bit better. Alright, so first thing first, both cameras, they share a very similar like build and body. As you can see, they're both really small. They both have a fairly big grip, at least for being an APS-C camera. They have the same viewfinder, which is a pretty decent viewfinder. I can see you at least here, you know. And they also both have a very user-friendly interface. You can also find the same vari-angle LCD flip screen, which is pretty nice. Each camera also has a single memory card. You can see here both on the A6700, and here, can I do this in one hand? Oh, both have a, you know, can I get a focus here? Single memory card right here. Based on comments in the past, I know that some of you get a little bit stressed when you see me having the sensors open, but I just want to tell you, there's nothing to worry about. I'm a professional. Both of these cameras use a Bion Z-XR processor, which provides significant processing power and pretty good dynamic range. On top of that, both the A6700 and the A7C II features a hybrid autofocus system. They also have the latest and greatest autofocus technology that Sony has, which is powered by AI, and it is like, without like me being a total Sony fanboy, which I am, then on honesty, it's absolutely sick. Also, both have E-mount, and this is what I love about Sony, that both the APS-C and their full frame system, they're both equipped with what they call E-mount, so you can use all lenses Sony has, whether it's APS-C lenses or full frame lenses, or also, you know, not like Canon, which eliminates the old lenses, then they make a new mount for the new lenses. All lenses, I think they're like 70 or 80 lenses you can use on both systems. Very, very nice. Now, when it comes to photography, then I've enjoyed like both cameras like a lot. I really like these smaller cameras. I think the shutter sound on this one is actually pretty, like, I think it's pretty beautiful. Listen to this here. It's like little subtle and nice. I like it. And one more thing they also have, they both have these bigger Sony batteries, which is nice, so like you can take it out and shoot a whole lot of photos with them. But you know, when it comes to then taking photos with both of these cameras, how easy, you know, is it then to spot the difference between them? Well, let me throw up a few photos side by side, and let's see if you're actually able to spot the difference between the two. So without lying, was that tricky to you? I mean, which was shot with the A6700, Sony names, you know, A6700, and which was shot with the AC2? Let me know in the comments down below what you think, and the winner wins honor. But anywho, if you said that the right side of the screen was the full frame camera, then my friend, you were totally wrong. That was this camera right here. Now, this was for photography, and as I said, I really enjoyed both these cameras for photography, but we wouldn't be here saying that these were hybrid cameras unless they could also do videos. So let's do the same game again. I'm throwing off videos side by side, or maybe like one or two, and if you can guess the right, oh, next there will be such a good prize, you know. So let's do it. Could you spot the difference? Well, this time the number one, or the right side, was the Z7C II, the full frame camera. Good on you, you know. And now the price is you get, what do you get? You get one of these. Good on you, boy. And like all in all, filming with them, it's so nice. I mean, I film a whole lot with this camera that I'm shooting here, which is this A7 IV. And this is the same exact sensor. So if you like this quality, you're gonna like this quality. But what about here? I also filmed a bunch with this camera. I took it to Norway this summer, filmed up so much. And I was honestly so surprised because I've been using the A6400 so much and you don't know the APS-C camera inside out. And this is a huge upgrade. I mean, this is the same sensor on the A6700 as is on the FX30, which is the cinema line of a camera from Sony. And this has that sensor. So it's like, I'm just like, how do you say, floored by the performance of this little bad boy right here. However, they're not perfect, and in a second we'll dive into what the not perfectness, so good English, the not perfectness we're gonna talk about in a second. But first, let's dive into the differences. So as I said before, the A7C II boasts obviously a 33 megapixel full frame sensor. So the physical sensor size of the A7C II is just a lot bigger, and you can actually see it here that the sensor, it is bigger here, while the A6700, it has a 26 megapixel APS-C sensor. And I mean, that is a massive difference. That means that these are like totally different cameras. There are different looks and different perks that come with each of them, you know. Oh, there is snowing a lot right now, and we have this snow car like taking all the snow off. I think it sounds a lot like, hope it doesn't come in here. Anywho, but that doesn't mean that the A7C II, just because the bigger sensor, is, you know, better in all aspects. Like, you know, my lady, she says that bigger is not always better, you know. So the A7C II has a native ISO range from 100 to 51,200, which is expandable to like 102,400 or something like that. While the A6700, on the other hand, has a native ISO range of 100 to 32,000, which is then expandable to 204,800. Oh, that's a lot of ISO, my friend. Now, the A7C II can capture oversampled 4K footage, which can film up to 60 frames per second, but the 60 frames per second, then you're not using the entire sensor. It is cropped in APS-C mode. But if you want to use the total like 35mm look, then you can get 4K up to 30 frames per second. Now the A6700, on the other hand, it can film oversampled 4K footage up to 120 frames per second, which is a lot. Like, that is super slow motion. We love that. But the 120 frames per second on the APS-C, it's quite cropped, I think like 1.6, so just keep that in mind. Now, when it comes to the autofocus performance in lower light conditions, the autofocus on the A7C II works down to 4 stops of light, while this in the A7600, while in the APS-C camera, the autofocus works down to 3 stops of light. And then the low light performance in general is just much better, of course, on the A7C II, because it's a full frame sensor, and that's just full frame sensor is better in low light performance than APS-C. There's no arguing there, you know. Now, when it comes to burst shooting, the A7C II offers 10 frames per second, while the A6700, it actually offers 11 frames per second. And then the body and weight, although I said in the beginning that they are like extremely similar, then the A7C II is actually slightly heavier and a little bit bigger, but I don't think you will notice that much. They are actually really, really similar. But you can, for instance, see that you both have this wheel here, but you get an extra little wheel on the A7C II. Can you capture it here? Here you have an extra little wheel, which you don't have here. Now, when it comes to the stabilization and the IBIS, the in-body stabilization, both have it, but I read on the internet that the A7C II actually has like 7 stops of stabilization, while this has 5 stops of stabilization. I think both are performing good. They both have these also active stabilization thingies, and yeah, they're nice, you know. Great cameras. Another thing that differentiates both these cameras is, of course, the price. At the time of the shooting, the A7C II comes in at around $2,200, while the A6700 is like $1,400, and that is for the body only. And, you know, that is obviously something to keep in mind, because there is quite an, you know, I'm not a mathematician, don't know the percentage, maybe some of you can help me out there, but there is quite a price difference between these two cameras. Now, in my opinion, as you can probably hear, then I like both of the cameras. I mean, I'm a huge fan of Sony APS-C because of the, you know, size of it. I like how much, like, I just like when I'm out in the nature filming and I'm out like carrying my kids or whatever. I just like the size that it doesn't take up much space and it's lightweight and I can just whip it up and take some photos. And I was honestly so surprised when I tried the A6700 the first time, just how good it is. I mean, as I said before, it's the same sensor as the FX30, which is a great camera. Plus it has these photo capabilities which are super nice. So I like that. On the other hand, the A7C II is the same sensor as the A7 IV, which is like by far one of my favorite cameras. I use it so much. fantastic full-frame hybrid camera, which is this camera I'm pointing at right now here, this camera, but it's smaller, so it's the same size as this, and on top of that is also now equipped with the latest and greatest autofocus technology, which the A7 IV does not have, and this have. Like, I think the biggest difference is the viewfinder and the fact that these only have one SD card slot, and that leads us to the things that I do not like. Now, what I don't really like is the one SD card that these cameras are equipped with. Now, it's not a deal breaker in my opinion, and I haven't really had a SD card fail on me that way, but if you are into doing a professional weddings or stuff like that, I've heard that is pretty stressful to know that you're not having an SD card that is backing you up, just in case. But again, wouldn't be a deal breaker for me, but it could be something, and it would be so cool if it had two, but then again, it would be much bigger, I think. I'm just guessing that. Now, are there other things that I do not like? I know that some people have been complaining that this has the smaller viewfinder, and the viewfinder on the A7 IV, it's much bigger and better, but then you would not be having it so small. So I don't think it's a bad thing at all, and I'm just so used to these small viewfinders. But if you want a big viewfinder, you might be here like, oh, this small viewfinder, I do not like it. Now, with all that being said, you're probably sitting there now being like, okay, man, I get it. They're both pretty nice. Which should I then pick? I'm getting a little bit confused. Well, I'm gonna tell you which one might be the perfect for you and why. So when you look at both of these cameras side by side, in my opinion, it kind of all comes down to which you care about the most. A full frame sensor or sticking to the budget. The A7C II will give you a really nice picture quality, but it will cost you more. Also, keep in mind that all lenses for Sony full frame are much more expensive than for, Sony APS-C lenses. But on the other hand, if you own a whole lot of APS-C lenses, you can always put the A7C II in APS-C mode, use all of your APS-C lenses, and then in the future, when you got a little bit more of that moolah, you can buy a full frame lens, So that is something, if you know in the future you want to go full frame, then that is a great little choice. It's good to plan ahead. On the other hand though, the A6700, it is a better deal financially, and it is also, it's a powerhouse of a hybrid camera. Also, if you're into video making, then both cameras are actually pretty similar, especially if you want 4K 60 frames per second. However, the A6700 is a little bit better here, or it's winner here, because it can film 4K footage up to 120 frames per second, which is pretty sick, although it crops in a little bit on the picture. Now, these are all some very important questions that you will quite frankly have to answer on your own, my friend. But then again, how good is it actually, this 4K 120 frames per second that you can get on the A6700, and is it a deal breaker or not? Well, you need to watch this video next to find out.